The Monon Trail is a biking and pedestrian trail that runs from downtown Indianapolis to the northern suburbs, passing through neighborhoods that vary in environmental conditions and income levels. A recent study found a 12-year difference in average life expectancy between the affluent North End and the lower-income South End, highlighting the disparities in environmental quality and access to health care. Climate change exacerbates these disparities, with extreme heat, air pollution, and flooding affecting vulnerable communities the most. Cities are increasingly focusing on urban resilience in their climate change plans, but the importance of equitability as a foundation of urban health and resilience is often overlooked. Resilience is important for social ecological systems, such as cities, to enable continued functioning and well-being in the face of adversity. The capacity to buffer, adapt, or transform emerges from actively cultivated core traits such as redundancy, diversity, and equitability. Redundancy ensures excess capacity needed to absorb or buffer the impact of adverse events. Diversity enables adaptation and transformation, and equitability refers to the fair distribution of the ingredients for well-being. Lack of equitability can compromise a city's capacity to sustain functioning and well-being under conditions of stress, as underserved neighborhoods tend to be more vulnerable to adverse events. Building equitability-focused strategies is essential for nurturing the human diversity inherent in underserved communities that are critical to building urban resilience. One common climate change adversity faced by cities is extreme heat events, and there exist practical equitability-focused strategies that cities can take to build resilience to a changing climate. Extreme heat can result in heat-related illnesses and deaths, and it complicates existing chronic diseases. Heat waves cause more deaths per year in the United States than any other weather hazard. Urban heat islands amplify temperatures in cities, making city residents more vulnerable to extreme heat events. Heat exposure intensity is impacted by the design of the local built environment, access to transportation, job duties, and housing conditions. Poorly insulated and ventilated homes and insufficient access to air conditioning can contribute to unhealthy indoor conditions. The amount of vegetated land cover contained in a community has the greatest impact on personal heat exposures. Let's learn more about the effects of extreme heat in a specific Indiana community and why it matters to find solutions. Click on the screen to rotate right to view the next video segment about who's at risk from extreme heat. If you are currently viewing this video with a VR headset, look to the right to view the next video segment about who's at risk from extreme heat. Due to health and sociodemographic factors, some people are at a greater risk for a heat-related illness than others, including people experiencing homelessness, those with chronic illnesses, or other vulnerable populations such as the elderly, lower-income communities, or communities of color. In addition to the hot weather that is typical during summertime, there are two phenomena that exacerbate these temperatures in the short and long term: climate change and the heat island effect. It is critical for communities to study and assess the impacts of heat and develop local strategies to alleviate the effects of heat on a community. One such southern Indiana community working towards this goal is Clarksville, a town of 22,000 people just across the Ohio River from Louisville, Kentucky. Currently, Clarksville experiences 42 extreme heat events per year, and by 2050 this number is expected to double. In the spring of 2021, the town of Clarksville was awarded a grant to help residents cope with the health impacts of extreme heat. The grant gave the town the opportunity to both study the impacts of extreme heat in Clarksville and develop local strategies to alleviate them. The Beat the Heat program started in the spring of 2021 and runs through the spring of 2023. The first phase is focused on information gathering, completing a community needs assessment, and developing a heat relief strategy, while the latter phase is focused on implementing strategies, continuity planning, and evaluating the program's impact. To begin its community assessment, Clarksville enlisted a group of volunteers to collect temperature data in different parts of the town. 17 local volunteers traveled throughout Clarksville on August 23, 2021, collecting near-surface temperatures and humidity in the morning, afternoon, and evening. After collecting a total of 24,311 measurements, heat maps were created that demonstrate the areas of the town most impacted by the heat island effect. The results of this campaign were overlaid with sociodemographic data to develop a heat vulnerability index, which identifies the areas of town where residents are most affected by extreme summer heat. The results directly informed the development of Clarksville's heat management plan. One map, in particular, illustrates heat distribution on a hot summer evening in late August. This data is then combined with sociodemographic variables such as age, income, race, education, and others into a heat vulnerability index highlighting 3 priority groupings most vulnerable to heat, especially at night, when high temperatures have a stronger association with negative health effects. All of these assessment variables were synthesized into Clarksville's heat management plan.
As a community volunteer in Clarksville, I was excited to be a part of a team working to implement an extreme heat management plan for the city. The plan was designed to help residents stay safe during the hot and humid summers that often leave people vulnerable to heat-related illnesses. Our first step was to gather information about the city's demographics, especially those who were most vulnerable to heat-related illnesses, such as the elderly, children, and those with chronic health conditions. We also looked at data on past heat waves to understand the extent of the problem and identify areas of the city that were particularly affected. Once we had this information, we began working with community leaders, local organizations, and government officials to develop a plan of action. We held community meetings and conducted surveys to get input from residents, and we used this feedback to tailor our approach to the specific needs of the community.
One of our main goals was to increase public awareness about the risks of extreme heat and provide resources for residents to stay safe. We developed educational materials, such as brochures and posters, that were distributed throughout the city. We also worked with local media outlets to promote heat safety tips and provide updates on weather conditions. Another key part of our plan was to create cooling centers throughout the city where residents could go to escape the heat. We identified community centers, libraries, and other public buildings that could serve as cooling centers. And we worked with local organizations to provide volunteers and resources to staff these facilities.
As a volunteer, I played a key role in organizing and staffing these cooling centers. I helped to set up the facilities, distribute water and other supplies, and provide support to residents who came to cool off. It was incredibly rewarding to see the impact that our efforts were having on the community. Overall, the implementation of our extreme heat management plan was a success. By working together with local organizations and government officials, we were able to create a comprehensive strategy that is going to keep residents safe during the hot summer months. Click on the screen to rotate right to learn more about what communities in Indiana, like Clarksville, are doing to implement strategies to manage extreme heat. If you're viewing this in a VR headset, look to your right to learn more about what communities in Indiana, like Clarksville, are doing to implement strategies to manage extreme heat.
It is important to develop a variety of strategies and approaches when mitigating extreme heat in a community, working in combination to improve awareness of, preparedness for, and resilience against extreme heat events. Clarksville, Indiana's heat management plan includes a heat wave protocol. 12 strategies that should be pursued to alert residents to extreme heat events, support the town's most vulnerable residents during a heat wave, and provide safe and convenient public cooling options. It also includes public outreach strategies, including a heat awareness campaign to inform residents about local resources, what to anticipate, and how to respond during times of extreme heat. In addition, home cooling strategies, such as providing air conditioning to vulnerable individuals, can be beneficial and life-saving, and is considered the top protective factor against heat-related illness and death. Finally, community cooling strategies can mitigate both the heat island effect and greenhouse gas emissions that contribute to climate change. Adding trees, shade, and water features, fostering green spaces, and utilizing cool roofing and pavement materials all contribute to the goal of lowering ambient temperatures, improving air quality, and strengthening a community's resilience against climate change and mitigating extreme heat. Cities have historically relied on gray infrastructure like buildings, roads, and sewage systems, but these systems can contribute to issues like extreme heat, air pollution, and water pollution. Green infrastructure, such as trees and urban forests, can be integrated into cities to provide a flexible and nimble solution to these issues. Urban forests have a positive impact on mental health and well-being, and they also combat climate change by reducing the urban heat island effect and improving air and water quality. Trees act as water sponges and increase soil absorptive capacity, which helps counteract flooding. Urban forests can enhance cities' resilience to climate shocks and provide access to nature, which is crucial in modern times. Urban planners and developers should consider green infrastructure as a viable option to solve problems and build a sustainable future. Engaging communities in understanding their environmental conditions can empower them to push for sustainable local solutions, but funding and policy changes are needed to reduce inequities. Many environmentally burdened communities are unaware of the harmful conditions they face or have nowhere to turn for solutions. Extreme heat, in particular, is easy to overlook at the community level. Awareness campaigns and knock and talk programs targeting vulnerable populations can be an effective step in educating residents and potentially saving lives. Individuals can help build resilience and equity into the collective health system by participating in community science monitoring, paying attention to air quality alerts, limiting activities that contribute to ozone pollution, and having a plan for high heat days. These actions can contribute to a culture of climate health in neighborhoods and communities, making residents more resilient to climate change. Click on the screen to rotate right to view the video segment introducing extreme heat if you have not already done so. If you are wearing a VR headset, look to the right to view the video segment introducing extreme heat if you have not already done so.